Welcome to No Apologies on Beck, where we are unafraid to speak the truth. I am your host, Rick Becker, our co-host, Lori Hintz.
Good to be here.
This is the first time I've not had a suit jacket on, so
I know,
I'm
really
feeling,
comfy, but
I'm
you
feeling
know what?
it's Friday.
It's Freewheeling Friday. We got lots of stuff to do that's going to be very fun stuff today.
Okay,
I
awesome.
think
Yeah,
it's gonna
we've
be
got
really
a couple great guests for sure. So if you've started viewing with us, do not stop till the show's over.
Exactly. All right, we are kicking things off with a little what?
No, I'm ready to bring you in.
All right. We're starting with a little telepathic thing there. We are starting with COVID. We are starting with an update. It's been a while since we've actually tackled this subject. We hit it ad nauseum when we first started doing this program because that would have been in December, and it was a big thing at that point. And at this point, not such a big thing. However, we do have a couple of updates for you. I was looking at the North Dakota Department of Public Health information on Twitter, and it had the latest update on what's going on in the state. And for me, it seemed very, very small. So 31 people in the entire state currently hospitalized as of yesterday. These are yesterday's numbers. The daily positivity rate as of yesterday was 2.6%. The active cases up 39 from the day before. 836 people who have COVID actively in the state, and daily new positive tests 134. But that's for the whole state. So that's pretty good. That's fairly low. It's still, people are still getting it, but it seems very low. Now, they also had some other numbers on their graphic as well. They had North Dakota residents who have received one or more doses of the COVID-19 vaccine, and that was 104,832. The total vaccination doses administered, so that's one plus those who have gotten second doses, would be 171,413. So what I did is I took the total number of residents in the state of North Dakota. Last I knew it was 762,062 people.
Okay.
And I took that number and I took the residents who have gotten their doses, which is 104,000, and I roughly came up with 1 in 7 people have been vaccinated at least once in the state.
That's higher than I would have expected.
I kind of was surprised by that too, but that translates, if you go 1 in 7, that translates to about a little over 14%. So last night we had Tony Garrick on the program from Fargo, and he was talking about their mask mandate there, and I'll get into that in a little bit too, but he said that their rate of vaccination in Fargo is under 13%, and because of that they're extending their mask mandate. That was one of their stories.
Absolutely nuts. Let's transition here. We've got a graphic to bring up showing North Dakota, South Dakota. We've showed we've showed this graphic 2, 3, 4 times now, but always advancing along the timeline. You see how North Dakota and South Dakota are nearly identical.
So close.
And, South Dakota leveled off just a little bit higher than North Dakota did at the end, despite the fact South Dakota does not and has not had a mask mandate and has not closed businesses. North Dakota is dropping a little bit lower, but now it's coming up. Basically, in the end, we still continue to be just like South Dakota.
Isn't it interesting, too, that we kind of take turns? You can see where it crosses, and then there are other places where they're ahead.
And that's because that we are not statistically different.
Correct.
So, yes, we're not identical, but on any given day, one's a little better, one's a little worse, and it's almost identical.
Well, the peaks are all the same. That's the other interesting thing.
The timing of the peaks are very interesting.
Very, very similar.
So, North Dakota has right now roughly about 10 cases per 100,000 people. South Dakota has 20, well, this is as of 2-3 days ago.
Okay.
South Dakota has 20 cases per 100,000 people. So both are extremely low. South Dakota's higher. You might say, aha, that's because of the mask mandate. Well, the United States has 24 per 100,000 people. So South Dakota, with no closures, no mandates, is less than the national average. Also, the number of cases total thus far in North Dakota is 13,182 per 100,000 people. So a little over 13,000 per 100 for North Dakota. 12,793 per 100,000 people in South Dakota, a little bit less. So very interesting factoids there.
Very, very interesting. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the mask mandate that just got put on Fargo. Now, Fargo, as you may know, if you saw the program last night, you saw Tony Garrigan, he was talking about it. And the Fargo City Commission voted just this week on Wednesday, I believe it was. Maybe it was Monday. No, it was on Monday, March 22nd. Okay. What they're going to do is they are going to mandate through 11:59 on Monday, March 22nd. A special commission meeting was held on Wednesday, the 17th this week. And the following rationale was provided to the commissioners in addition. Well, there were only 4 of them there, according to Tony. Yep. There were 4. So prior to their decision to extend the mandate. Now, this just seems crazy to me, but these were some of their suggestions. They said a letter of recommendation was provided to the City Commission to extend the mandates by the Fargo-Cass Public Health Board of Health. So that was the first thing. Then the majority of school teachers were not currently vaccinated while school remains in session. That was another reason they gave why they needed to extend the mandate. And Tony pretty much debunked that pretty well last night as well. And then they also cited the fact that the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, have identified, of course, the scary and you should be afraid, new highly contagious variants of the COVID-19 virus. Two cases of a new variant have been confirmed in North Dakota. So they're doing a little fear-mongering there as well. And then they did a survey amongst them. He talked about it a little bit last night, too. The Fargo's business community has expressed support for extension of the mask mandate. So they surveyed whomever they wanted to, really specifically surveyed, and they got 75% of respondents saying that the extension would be supportive of a mask mandate.
Well, good job. Good job. You scared the community of Fargo
Way to
enough
go.
that we want more masks.
Yeah.
Do you know that at least one of the mutations they say is 70% deadlier? Now, I don't know how they come up with that. That might be another statistic.
You should probably
to
triple
increase
mask.
the fear. Well, yeah, why not? Right now, they're saying that the vaccines should be just fine, although some are less effective, but they should work just fine. Also, something new on the front is the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine is coming up.
Oh.
Whereas the 2 vaccines out now are a new type of vaccine, an mRNA vaccine. Mm-hmm. Never before have we had a vaccine like it, which is what freaks me out a little bit about it personally. But the new one, the AstraZeneca, is based on the way that we traditionally adenoviral vaccine. So it takes a kind of a related virus or parts thereof, creates a vaccine from that. That's how they did the vaccines for MERS, the Middle Eastern respiratory illness. Because back then we could say where it was from. We can't say it's from China now, but we could say could say Middle East. We could say Spanish.
I don't even call them vaccines either. I call them experimental biological agents because they're not really vaccines. Technically, they're experimental. And
well, this new one from Oxford, AstraZeneca, is a vaccine.
Actually been decent? Okay, well, let's hope. I will not be taking any vaccines. Thank you very much. I'm not doing experimental stuff. Thanks.
Another new thing that's I'm enjoying very much is Governor Cuomo. He's getting a lot of flack, and hopefully he is imploding. The guy who killed so many elderly people in New York, the guy who is so full of himself, yet somehow was nominated for an Emmy.
I just don't even understand
an Emmy for all of his self-boasting news compressors
every afternoon. You want to look up something neat? Follow Janice Dean.
Janice Dean.
And she is going after Cuomo because her in-laws both were killed.
I heard her on the radio.
Yeah, so if you want to follow a story, that's a really, really, really good story. And she's a great spokesperson for her side of the story. So.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, so there's your COVID update. Next up, we have Representative Ben Koppelman, and we are going to be talking about a special bill of his. I'm going to tell you about it later. Stick with us.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Did you know the Foundation for Rural Service awards scholarships for rural students? The scholarships range from $2,500 to $7,000. Go to www.frs.org for information and applications.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
There's nothing more important than family. And at Prairie Rose Family Dentists, we get it. That's why we have more locations, more dentists, specialists, extended hours, pediatric clinics, and even emergency appointments, so you can always be seen. Book your appointment today at prairierosedentist.com. Prairie Rose Family Dentists. We are family.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Pub 21, your one stop for fun, drinks, and food. Our spacious facility provides COVID-safe fun for you and all your friends. With nightly bingo and specials, you can be sure there's something to do for everyone. If you're staying in for the night, we've got you covered just across the way with Pub 21 Liquor. We have a wide variety of options, from wine to whiskey and everything in between. Stop in today at 1014 South 12th Street in Bismarck to see what all the buzz is about. You won't be disappointed.
Welcome back. Is this where I say After Hours Oasis of Sanity?
This is the
okay.
one.
Yeah, welcome back. This is No Apologies on Beck, your After Hours Oasis of Sanity.
Yes.
And clearly, Representative Ben Koppelman is with us. He is going to lend a little bit of a helping hand to that sanity because apparently I've lost it entirely. So Ben, you've been with us before. Thank you for having the patience to come back again.
I'd like to mention a couple of things. One, for those of you who do not know, he's from West Fargo. He is from District 16, and he is the most prolific bill guy in the legislature in North Dakota this time around, this session, with 17 bills and one resolution. So 18 technically. A little busy, are ya? How do you juggle all those plates? That's a lot of plates.
Well, you know, I can always count on the House to kill a few good ideas, so it gets narrowed down before they get to the Senate.
Hedging his bets, man.
So hopefully I'll have enough to keep us busy the second half of the session. So
excellent, excellent. So what we're talking about tonight is your Bill 1498. And it's interesting because in its description, it's about use of force in defense of property. Is that, how would you describe this bill?
I popped the graphic up here. I didn't lift any text because the whole bill has so many parts to it that are pertinent. So what I thought we'd do is, as you were leading up to Lori, is Ben, if you can just give the lay of the land, what your bill does, why it's needed.
Well, the key here is that it's a no duty to retreat bill. So when you're going about life in places where you're legally allowed to be, going to the grocery store, picking up the kids, wherever you're at, you have a fundamental and constitutional right to defend yourself. And when you're about to defend yourself, when you're confronted by somebody who wants to do you harm, our current law says, oh, hold on, time out. I got to check my boxes. Can I run away? No. Can I hide behind the canned foods? No. Can I, is there,
Seriously? Seriously?
Yeah, it requires that you rule out all ability to retreat. And so that's not good, that's not safe, and nor is it going to be very effective if you're in a situation where you need to use a firearm or any other weapon to protect yourself. And so what we've done in this bill is we haven't made the bill, some people would want to call it a stand your ground bill. And it has some similarities, but the main difference between this and some other stand your ground bills is it doesn't let a criminal stand their ground. It doesn't let an attacker stand their ground. It lets an innocent person who's defending themselves stand their ground. So with that kind of as an overview, specifically, I've looked at sections to make sure that somebody that uses the law to defend themselves and is justified in the law doesn't turn around and get sued to death civilly.
Sure.
So we've limited civil liability and where it can be applied. The second thing that we've done in this bill, although not necessarily in this order, is we've protected people against being charged with brandishing on their own property. Many of you may have remembered when all the riots were going on. I believe it was in St. Louis, Missouri, where a couple went to their house, and one had, I think, a shotgun, one had a rifle, and the gate in their gated community was torn down by a mob of people. And when they got up to their property, they're like, we're going to protect our property.
Right.
And they simply had a rifle and shotgun in their hands, ready to go. And the mob didn't attack them. So, yay, one for the good guys.
Right, exactly. They did the right thing.
If they had kids, their kids were safe.
Right.
But now they got dragged into court. Now, since then, I believe the prosecutor has been fired. I believe the governor said even if they were convicted, he'd pardon them. I mean, there's all this other media attention. And it's like, well, that couldn't happen in North Dakota, could it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Without this bill, technically it could.
Right.
And so that was another thing we did here. We're working hard this session to try to improve our gun rights in North Dakota, or at least remove restrictions that are unreasonable. We're not looking to change it to the Wild West. This isn't a showdown at high noon or anything like that. This is just a common sense approach to the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
Well, you should be able to protect yourself. Plain and simple. And you shouldn't have to go, should I retreat? That's just ridiculous. Those were very onerous and ridiculous things in the current statutes, I'm assuming.
That's right. And a couple other things for the real kind of nerdy people out there that want to know the specifics. We did add a couple things. We added, in the civil liability, we also made it so if somebody sues you frivolously after you're already justified, not only do they have to cover your attorney's fees if they lose, but they also have to cover your loss of income. So it's really a deterrent for people to not do that. Also, Castle Doctrine, if you're familiar with that, that's being able to protect pretty much in any circumstance when you're in your home or your temporary dwelling, like a hotel room or an RV. What we did here was we said, your vehicle, we're going to add that to that list too, because you're kind of captive when you're in your vehicle.
Exactly.
And we're not telling people you shouldn't seek shelter, that you shouldn't run away at times when it's practical. But what we're saying is you don't have to check the legal boxes before you defend yourself.
Yep. Well, and you know those decisions have to be made split second, and almost just as a what's the word I'm looking? Instinct. Just out of instinct. I mean, and then to go back and say, well, could I have done things differently when I had this attacker coming down upon me or whatever, is nuts, and to have to face litigation. I see that it got a 10-1 do pass recommendation.
Wow, good for you.
That surprises me.
Well, we worked the committee hard.
Excellent.
We had a very good discussion in the Judiciary Committee. We worked with the National Rifle Association on some minor amendments just to clean it up. There was one thing I wasn't aware of in our law, but that they dug up, which was we had said that if you were the aggressor, that you still had a duty to retreat in the original bill, because you started it. Well, apparently there's a de-escalation clause in our law which says, hey, even though let's just say you started a fist fight, and then you go, okay, enough, we're done, I'm walking away, and then somebody turns it into a gunfight. Well, now you're no longer considered the aggressor because now it's a whole different sea change. But if you were the aggressor and you started the gunfight, you don't have an ability to stand your ground legally, and you can't use that as a legal defense in a criminal trial.
So you have to be defending yourself from
That's right. That's right. And again, we always want people to practice, to get used to using their weapon, whether it's a firearm or otherwise. There are plenty of good classes people can take to defend themselves, and we want them to get into that habit where they can react out of instinct and not out of thought.
Right.
And by removing the silliness here and encouraging people to practice, we think that they're going to be better off.
Yeah. What is the opposition? What's their position or the logic?
Well, if the kind of flyby soundbite they like to use is it's the OK corral and everybody's just going to shoot people with impunity. I mean, it just all out, no excuse shooting and the law will protect them. Well, they missed the lead into this entire paragraph where it says, when used in lawful self-defense or lawful defense of others, if such force is necessary to protect the actor or anyone else against death, serious bodily injury, or the commission of a felony involving violence, then. And then you go through all the issues.
That's the preface,
so
people.
if you don't meet those criteria, you can't shoot at them. You've got to be doing that. The law also says you have to use measured force. So just because somebody's approaching you, if they're not armed, it doesn't mean you can automatically use deadly force. It's got to be measured. We did clean up another cute little provision that law had, which I can't believe. This one dealt with non-deadly force, just force. And this was about, if you're being burgled. Somebody's taking your TV off the wall or about to drive away with your Harley Davidson, and you're supposed to walk up to it and say, "Sir, would you please cease and desist from stealing my Harley and remove yourself from my garage?" And that somehow that's supposed to be a great idea before you forcefully remove him from your garage.
That's not very deterrent.
And so I'm like, really? I mean, nobody's going to do that. They're not going to think of that. And then, why have it in the law? So we did remove that in this bill as well.
Good. Very good. That's fantastic.
Well, when we come back, we are going to talk to you about a couple of other bills that you have going on too, because he's got a lot of them. We'll be right back.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
Beck Communications is hiring. Beck Communications is seeking qualified candidates for plant technicians in our Wheatland, North Dakota location. Beck Communications is an equal opportunity employer. To view the job details, visit www.beck.coop. To apply, email your cover letter and resume to careers@bechtel.coop. Beck Communications, making connections that matter.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both the past with down-home customer service in-house and the future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
If you're a Beck Fiber customer or the dependent of a Beck Fiber customer, you might qualify for scholarships. Beck awards scholarships to seniors headed to college or to students attending University of Mary. Go to www.beck.coop for eligibility guidelines and applications.
The experienced professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless, and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
Did you know the Foundation for Rural Service awards scholarships for rural students? The scholarships range from $2,500 to $7,000. Go to www.frs.org for information and applications.
Welcome back to No Apologies on Beck. Listen, I have to say thank you to Ben. We ran into a little scheduling glitch, and Ben was only scheduled for one segment, but he is a veritable fountain of information and has agreed to stay with us, and so thanks a lot, Ben. I appreciate it. Well, you've got a couple of bills that are coming up. I'm just pulling them up right here. There is a, let's see, House Bill 1495. It looks, oh, let's see, is that Kim Koppelman that put that in?
Yeah, that's actually sponsored by leadership. Kim Koppelman is the speaker, and I believe Leader Pollard is on that bill, and others possibly.
Assistant Majority Leader Lauser is on, Casper Clemeen.
Okay, so that bill is a bill that essentially reforms the emergency power section of our code.
Interesting.
And what that section was all the power that both the chief health officer used in one chapter, and then the power that the governor used in the other chapter. And that was used for things like telling businesses when they could be open or when they had to be closed, telling businesses what percentage occupancy they could have, determining any sort of new standard or method that needed to be done. It was used to suspend statutes even beyond regulatory statutes, such as due process for quarantines, and a lot of other things over the course of the pandemic. And some of the stuff the executive branch had gone after and then backed off of. Other things they just kept moving forward on. And so the main goal of this bill is to ensure that the legislature has the control that was originally intended when the emergency powers were written.
Yes.
One of the things is the legislature has had the power to end the emergency by resolution.
Right.
However, there's nothing to say the governor couldn't just reintroduce the same emergency.
Correct.
So it kind of doesn't have the intended effect. So in this bill, there's limitations. The governor can set an emergency for up to 30 days, and with a special session, which can be virtual for this purpose.
Oh, interesting.
He can extend it for another 30 days. Fantastic. But after 60 days, if an emergency still exists, that's that bad, then the legislature would have to actually, enact policy statutes to govern that time after the 60 days. So we would be in here in special session. 60 days gives us enough time to get here physically in just about any circumstance. We could come in, the governor could make his best case, we could consider bills, set the policy, limit how much we're going to restrict the public in responding to that emergency, and then move on. I think in this past pandemic, what we've seen is an executive that really has a ridiculous amount of power. And we've had our legislative leadership gets to sit by and watch and give their 2 cents every now and again, but really no power to say this is what the legislature wants you to do.
Right, meaning also the people want you to do as well, because the legislators are our mouthpiece.
Right.
But I think this sounds like a very reasonable piece of legislation.
Well, it's challenging to write. I mean, there's a lot of pieces and parts, and it took a couple amendments in committee to get the language right. It did have a hearing and get voted out with a do pass majority out of the Government and Veterans Affairs Committee, which I sit on. That's why I know about it. And I look forward to it passing on the floor.
Excellent.
The Senate does have their version of things that already passed the Senate. It's missing a couple of key points, though. And one is a definition of a regulatory statute. Right now, the language that allows the governor to suspend a regulatory statute doesn't define it. And that's how they were able to remove due process and other things through regulatory statute, because there wasn't a definition.
Right.
So removing that's one piece. There's one other piece that's kind of a catch-all in the emergency chapter that says the governor can suspend and replace any measure that he finds not adequate to fight an emergency. So that's where occupancy at 25%, 50%. Other things, you have to wash your tables 12 times an hour, or your employees must be masked, or any of these other things came out of that authority.
Interesting.
So I do think it's a good bill. I like its chances to pass the House.
Good.
I think when we switch over and get the Senate bill and they get ours, I'm sure they'll get some more tinkering, but I think in the end we'll have a good policy.
Yes, fantastic. Do you recall what the committee vote was on that?
I believe it was 9-4-1 or something to that effect. Yeah.
Okay, well that's great. That's great, man. That's fantastic. I got my fingers crossed for that. I think all our viewers do as well.
Can you tell me again what that bill number is so that people at home
That's House Bill 1495, and the prime sponsor is Representative Kim Koppelman.
Got it, 1495.
Let's go on to one of your bills. It's a resolution, House Concurrent Resolution 3033. And it was approved by the Delayed Bills Committee, I see. So you slipped it in late. Tell us about that.
Well, actually, it came in late because of an internet outage that we had right prior to the chamber having an internet outage.
Yeah.
It was that evening before. And so we believe Representative Lauser and I were in committee together, and we, thought it went, and somehow it didn't get in, so it had to be approved by delayed bills. But it had been planned long before that. What the resolution does is it essentially calls for the states to have an Article 5 amendments convention for the Constitution. And it would amend the U.S. Constitution to create term limits for Congress. So much like the president is term limited under the U.S. Constitution, that's how Congress has to be term limited as well. A lot of states tried to do it by ballot measure and other things back in the 90s. Then the Supreme Court said, nope, the only way you can term limit Congress is through the Constitution. So, believe it or not, it's got something like a 70 to 80% approval rating when they poll the public.
Interesting.
In our state. And so people are not happy about Congress running amok. They don't like the bickering. They don't like the continuing resolutions to spend money versus having a budget. And they don't like the fact that they don't have to have a budget because they print whatever money they want. So I can tell you I'm not a proponent for term limits for legislators that serve part-time. It's important that there's some
continuity.
Right, because you've got to be able to fight the bureaucrats when we come to town every other year. So that's important. But the full-time congressmen and senators, they should only be there for so long, not make a career out of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so has this been heard yet?
Looks like it was
yes,
just introduced.
it was just heard this morning in Government Veterans Affairs Committee. And I'm not sure what the vote is on that, but it'll be on the floor next week.
Okay. And Article 5 is always an interesting thing because overall, when you look at conservatives, they tend to split a little bit. There's a faction that are opposed to any Article 5 because they're worried about a runaway convention. We had your father, Representative Kim Koppelman, on to discuss the pros, and had a person discussing the cons, Mr. Robert Brown, about Article 5 in general. So that's one aspect. Then the other aspect is, okay, if you're interested or if you're okay with an Article 5, is term limit the way to go? And that's also, I think, very, very interesting because
look at the
what term limit does your resolutions have a specific term?
No, the resolution is general, and it's done general on purpose because I want to say there's 24 states that have similar resolution, and once we get to 34, then you call that convention. Now, keep in mind that the key to Article 5 is not what the subject is. Obviously, you don't want a bad subject.
Right.
But if it's balanced budget, if it's term limits, if it's any number of other things, the point is that once you get enough force that you could call an Article 5 convention, that's when you motivate Congress to do it for you. Sure. And that's really what you want, because when Congress does it, it saves a whole step, and it ends up coming right to the state legislatures for ratification.
Exactly.
And for those that think it's scary, let's keep in mind that you cannot amend the Constitution with less than 38 states. And I don't think right now we could get 38 states to agree that our flag is red, white, and blue.
Anything, right?
Much less do anything else. So the idea that you're going to somehow have a runaway with take away the Second Amendment or something and get 38 states to go along with it is really kind of silly.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
All right, thank
Ben,
you so much.
Thank you.
Yes,
really
we very
appreciate
much
it.
We have such
Probably
good
have you
guests.
on at least once more before the session ends. Ladies and gentlemen, Representative Ben Koppelman, we are going to be back with Mailbag.
Howdy, folks. It's a Line Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our hay-bossing breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon-rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the game. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the County Line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience. with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
Did you know the Foundation for Rural Service awards scholarships for rural students? The scholarships range from $2,500 to $7,000. Go to www.frs.org for information and applications. If you're a Beck Fiber customer or the dependent of a Beck Fiber customer, you might qualify for scholarships. Beck awards scholarships to seniors headed to college or to students attending University of Mary. Go to www.beck.coop for eligibility guidelines and applications.
Welcome back to No Apologies on Beck. Time for Mailbag.
Mailbag. We actually like to do this on Fridays. I have had a couple of people email and say, you know, you should do it more than that often. We probably could do it more often, but I kind of like saving it up because we've got a bunch of things. And this time we have some questions too, which is also good. Usually, you know, we're not just saying like, oh, you're so great, oh, you suck. This is a little more dialogue rather than just monologue on this one. So we're going to show you some of the things that we get in our mailbags. Let's look at the first one. The first one is a question. Howdy. Could be worse. Look at the comments on Beck's Down the Road with Joel page. That was referring to something else, obviously. Oh, I know what it was. Look at the subject. It says more than 10 viewers for sure. Could be worse. Anyway, any updates on the Solar Winds hack attack? Thank you for the extremely informative broadcast, and we sure appreciate the No Apologies team. Have a great weekend. Well, the team, you're looking at them here in the studio. This is the team right here. We have one fellow who is our Mr. Snerdley who helps us with
Snerdley
research.
and Mark Anthony.
And we just love you guys. Thank you very much. But other than that, it's just
Mark Anthony
is
I think he's a Siamese twin.
He's just making,
and Snerdley.
so sneaky.
Snerdley.
Alrighty, so Solar Winds hack. I can tell you what I read in an article about Solar Winds. U.S. intelligence officials have publicly blamed the supply chain attack targeting Solar Winds internal systems on Russia.
Huh.
Which is interesting. Security agency, they say the FBI and NSA joined the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence in January in saying that the hack was likely Russian in origin, but stopped short of naming a specific hacking group or Russian government agency as being responsible. And that's about all I could find on it. So,
I still think we're going to find out more about that down the road.
I think so too. That was a really big story. That's Mark Anthony.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, he used to date J-Lo, right?
Yeah, that's not the same thing. Okay. All right, we're moving on. Move on to another one. We got lots.
Okay, next I want you to get Mark Anthony from Cleopatra. All right, next up on Mailbag. Here we go. Bing, bing, bing.
All right.
I didn't understand if it is the passenger not wearing the seatbelt or driver of the vehicle that is responsible for the wearing of seatbelts. If pulled over, who gets the infraction? I believe it is the driver. And if you recall the primary seatbelt law that Senator Becker was prime sponsor on that passed the Senate is coming to the House for a vote. Makes it so that all occupants in the car, not just the front seat as it stands now, all occupants must be belted.
So we had that on an earlier show, so I appreciate people paying attention and actually listening to the content. That's super helpful.
I was driving with my family, and we were coming from Austria and driving into Germany, I think it was, which that sucked because driving from Germany to Austria, there's this place where supposedly you're supposed to know to pull over to get visas, and
it's not marked.
It's very poorly marked. It doesn't look like anyway. So if you drive past it, then there's a bunch of cops that force you to pull over, and because you passed the point that you were supposed to go, I got several $100s in fines because we didn't. Yeah, it ticked me up.
That's
anyway,
not good. Note to
driving
self,
back. There you go.
There he is.
There you go. Driving back, we got pulled over. It's late. We're tired. You know, we did the whole schnapps and everything.
Right.
We get pulled over, and there's a guy with a Uzi or something, and he's just yelling at us, and he's just being a dink. And it's because my kids in the back seat were not belted.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And he was saying how we were going to have to go over to this building and have hundreds and hundreds of dollars in fines. And I'm like, holy. Anyway, he let us go. But I think that's what's next. I think that's what Beckadal's bill does. If it passes, there will be people with Uzis screaming at you for not having your kids belted in the back seat. I think that's in the bill.
All right, let's look at another one from our mailbag. Just crack me up. Okay, so this is bills, concurrent resolutions, and the big dump. Do you want to read this one?
No.
I don't want to read it either.
Okay. It says hello. Now, from my understanding, this was is this the really long one?
This is the very, very
okay,
long.
so this was like 4 pages, you said.
Yes. It's really long.
I'm not sure if it's even worth commenting on any no apologies with Becker show, since emails are not acknowledged and nothing seems to get covered on subsequent shows. But I would rather try and not succeed than never try in the first place. So kudos to you for the last part. It is better to try and not succeed than to never have tried at all. But the number one, apologies. But if your email is super, super long, we may not
There's only 2 of us.
read it. There's 2 of us, and I have to tell you, we each have 5 or 6 other jobs.
Right.
It's not to say that we're too good to read your emails. That's not it. It's not it. It's not just I miss out on responding to emails at the legislature. I miss out on responding to my personal emails. I miss out on the darn Facebook Messenger things, which is terrible because they can see that you saw the message and then you still don't respond. So it's nothing personal. We're not being dinks on purpose.
We're just kind of drinking from a fire hose of information at this point. So our apologies on no apologies. So because it is. It's a lot of information.
He does say one thing here I want to address because I don't want to just. He says, setting up a system of government where so much legislation is dumped in such a short period of time really shuts people out of the process. I understand where you're coming from, but you have to keep in mind that we are a citizen legislature and we only meet every other year, and we only have 80 days to get everything done for the 2 years. So we have to dump the bills on the front end. So it's nothing that's
nefarious.
Exactly. It's just the way it has to be. There's no other way to do it unless you want full-time legislators. So
exactly.
Okay, now we can move
all right. Moving on to the next one. So this one, written more marked in.
He's a chunky one there. You got into the little Debbie snacking cakes
It's
there.
Friday. You can tell all day long. Okay, so do you have any no apologies with Becker stickers? Or better yet, Becker for Governor stickers?
You know, I probably do have
You
the
probably
latter.
have some leftover ones of those, right? That's awesome. We do not have any Becker, no apologies with Becker swag necessarily yet. We have.
It's coming.
It's coming. We've got the cool bourbon glasses,
Zoom,
which are really fancy and neat.
No, don't zoom. Zoom. Come on,
Zooming,
boys.
zooming.
Oh, that's not the right camera. Oh
and
my
then
God. Okay, this is Mark Anthony.
You know, we have these cool Beck tumblers.
Obviously, the chunky Mark Anthony is who's running the cameras now because they keep. Okay, I'm setting it down.
We have these
oh my Lord! Come on.
All right.
This is Tweedledee and Tweedledum, for God's sake. Good Lord. Okay.
So we do have some cool swag too. I don't know that they're necessarily for purchase or just for your use yourself in the Bourbon Bureau here.
Yeah, the Bourbon Bureau.
Anyway, I think that is about it. Did we not have any other ones? Okay, so there you have it, mailbag on I almost said Mojo. That's my radio station.
No
Sorry.
apologies on Beck.
I'm so sad.
There's nothing more important than family. And at Prairie Rose Family Dentists, we get it. That's why we have more locations, more dentists, specialists, extended hours, pediatric clinics, and even emergency appointments, so you can always be seen. Book your appointment today at prairierosedentist.com. Prairie Rose Family Dentists. We are family.
Deciding how to promote your business can be hard. Visit the professionals at Dakota Promotions and Printing and let them help you through your struggle. Dakota Promotions provides promotional items and apparel, from corporate gifts to team shirts and everything in between. With quick turnaround times and friendly service, they are your best choice. And best yet, you're shopping local. Visit them online at dakotapromo.com or stop in their showroom at 320 West Main in Mandan. Dakota Promotions, delivering promotions just for you. Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
The experienced professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless, and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck, or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Kohler Samurai and the innovative BRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Welcome back to No Apologies on Beck. Fear not, we have new producers in the house, and I think things are going to go just fine for these last couple minutes you spend with us.
This is my all-time favorite. I think it's
Off the cuff?
It's kind of becoming my favorite. You like it because you're just back in your
I
chair.
love
I'm
it.
like, I'm just not going to prep. I'm just going to do my thing.
I could do this all day.
It is. It's easy for you.
No prep, no work.
And it's fun for me because I get to kind of talk about things that are a little different than what we normally would talk about. They're a little more cultural and a little more emotional sometimes. And so, okay, the first one that I have today comes from an article that I saw on the Liberty Sentinel. And I want to know what we are supposed to do when we reboot. We need to do some rebooting. You and I have talked before on this program about a rhino purge. What are states to do, North Dakota included, when they realize that they need a Republican reboot? Wyoming and Arizona are examples of what they are doing here. This Jeremy Haroldson and a dozen other entrenched members of the Wyoming legislature were given the boot by their local constituencies throughout the state to be replaced by a determined group of grassroots conservatives. They just outed them. And worst of all, okay, so this is what they say. This guy, heaven forbid, he engages in the novel but thoroughly infuriating behavior from their perspective of actually remaining faithful to the Christian principles by which he lives and on which he campaigned. Heaven forbid. Anyway, so we've talked about the purge. What do you do to root that out, and is that something that we should do in North Dakota too? I mean, we've been accused of already being like the Rhino Haven in a Blaze article. So
well, right, and I've done, and we should just, for people that aren't viewing routinely, there's no prep or anything, like because we want it to be really authentic. So I have no idea what Lori's going to ask at all, and I don't want to know. But we talked about how it really comes down to the people. The people have to decide. We've been in a situation where there allegedly is a lot of discontent, but you're not seeing it take place at the election box.
Right.
And I think that there is sort of coming to a head whether something's going to happen or not, because we've been spending in North Dakota a lot of money, right? And we have, I mean, I'm hearing it on the floor right now. Today, we heard it again, that there was this situation where there was going to be a flat tax. It would overall save people money, but it had a price tag to it, meaning the state wasn't going to get as much revenue initially. And the phrase that was used was, we're in a budget crunch, okay? Now, and we've been spending like crazy with all the oil money. People 20, at least for sure, if not 50 years from now, are going to look back and say,
what is wrong with those people?
Wow, did they blow it?
All that money?
So we're looking at a situation where I believe we're going to have a record budget, a record amount of spending ever. And we have COVID money coming from the federal government. They're printing it up like nothing. And our per capita, the amount of money per every person that lives in North Dakota is huge compared to most other states. So we have all of that, and we're going to spend everything, but we're not giving the people significant tax relief. And when the real budget crunch comes, if Biden closes DAPL down, it's going to increase the price of oil. And when our oil is increased in price, that means the demand for it is less. That means we don't sell as much. That means they don't produce as much. That means there's not the same revenue to the state. So what their spending levels they're accustomed to aren't going to be there anymore. Additionally, if DAPL gets closed down, oil is going to be shipped preferentially over agriculture commodities. The ag community is going to be hurt, which is going to doubly hurt North Dakota. So when people say we're in a budget crunch now, I don't know what they're talking about. You may be in a budget crunch because you can't spend every last dime that you're hoping you could. So I'm getting off track. But the point is that it's going to be a matter of something has to happen to tilt the balance finally, where people say we aren't happy with things. And so it takes the people to recognize I can't just vote for an R or a D. I have to actually make the effort to learn about this person that's in the office where I'm their constituent. Are they representing me in what I believe?
What do you think about reorgs and going to reorganization meetings in your districts? And what do you think about being, like, stepping up to be a precinct committee person? Because that is the most grassroots position within the Republican Party anyway. You could become a precinct committee person and affect things in your district and vote for who's going to be the chairman of your district and things like that.
Well, and that's one of the ways. I mean, a lot of people aren't involved in party politics at all, and so to them I say, if there's going to be any change, it's up to you. And that includes the statewide and the federal elections, so forth. But the other way of doing it is really to get in. If you have any time at all, if people say I'd like to do something, but everyone, believe me, everyone is busy. And if you start to learn, it's not as complicated or sort of obscure, whatever, covert as you might think.
It's very educational.
If you get involved in party politics, you start to have a say on who it is that's going to represent you. And that's how, if you get a bunch of people doing that, that changes the course of what's happening in the state.
And it takes one person at a time. That's what it really does. It's amazing. So the next one comes courtesy of my uncle in St. Louis. Very, very smart man. He said, would it be reasonable to think that conservatives will create their own cancel culture and have people removed from the ability to earn a living because of their political view? Should they? I thought that was a great question.
No.
We have never been the cancel culture party. We just let open things up.
So
And we could retaliate. I mean, there's no question we could retaliate, but we never do.
Conservatism, the way I see it, would never stand for infringement on free speech. So what you have is the same type of situation when it comes to what people say are the right and the left. And the right, if you go far right, it's fascism. And if you're far left, it's socialism or communism. That's completely untrue, because true conservatism, true right, in my opinion, is small government. So if you want to say that conservatism taken to its extreme is anarchy, I suppose you could, meaning no government, but conservatism can't go that far because conservatives believe in the rule of law. Exactly. So at most what happens if conservatism is taken to its extreme is you have minarchy. You have a situation where there's a limited amount of government, only so much that they can provide the absolutely necessary services. Yes, that's what I, as a conservative, want. If you go to the other end of things, you start to split and you say, okay, the left, the big government people, they want more of a totalitarian. Do they want it where they're not taking over business, where they're coercing business, or do you want it as they're actually taking over business, which is the difference between fascism and communism, in brief. So this is in my mind, this is a very similar situation where it's not really, you may have big government people that call themselves Republicans that are fine with silencing speech as long as it fits them. Yep. They're, in my mind, not living up to the principles of conservatism.
Excellent answer. Very, very, very good. And my third one, the Biden administration continues to have National Guard deployed troops in Washington, D.C., and now they're saying through this fall. I would like to know what you think the reason is. I mean, I've got a couple of ideas. Is it all kabuki theater?
Yes.
Or is it, or do you think something else is afoot? Because it just seems so ridiculous. I don't even understand why on earth we would be spending millions of dollars to have these people in Washington, D.C. There are so many people. I know people who live in Washington, D.C. who have left D.C. and are living elsewhere purposely because they don't want to live in D.C.
They're all about creating the perception that government is needed, more security is needed, double and triple masks are needed. That's what the Democrats are about, is perception.
It's all theater.
All of it, and it absolutely is, because if you, it gives, you see that image of razor wire and all these military people there, you realize, you perceive that the nation is in a crisis. Well, when government has gone way too far, it's because the people bought into the idea that there was a crisis and it was okay to suspend freedoms just for this time during the crisis, and then they didn't get those freedoms back. And so that's what they're creating, that perception.
That was, again, he knocks it out of the park every single time. So I just love this segment. It's so much fun. Okay, so join us next time. We'll be back after the weekend with another great guest, and we will also plow through some more interesting topics as well as executive orders. Please join us again.